All right. Thank you everyone for joining me again today. It certainly has been an interesting week. There's a lot of energy is being stirred up. And as I was kind of preparing for today and looking to what the week holds, it's certainly going to be another interesting week, I think. So we've experienced the full moon lunar eclipse on Friday. We are still in that energy of that eclipse. The full moon energies and new moon energies actually last for a period of 3 days. So we're coming out of the end of those full moon lunar eclipse energies, but they will have an impact on us moving forward, as it has certainly stirred up a lot of stuff for us collectively as well as individually. And looking at the energies for the week, it almost feels like there's a stirring of, I think I've spoken before in the past of the illusions that have kind of facilitated and supported the structures or the foundations of our world. Those illusions have been falling apart and crumbling for a while now, but they've really been enhanced this week with the energies that came in. And then of course, it is almost like the full moon shines a spotlight on everything that is kind of broken and actually is needing to be healed, to be released, to be processed, to be forgiven, all of these things that we're working with and we see in the global arena. So currently what is happening is that for a lot of people there is this feeling of I think, we've been, for most of us, in lockdown now for nearly 3 months, and so there is the sense of what is normal now? We're certainly never going back into what that normal was. And how are we recreating our world in a way that it is, that it can become more stable for ourselves? So the focus at the moment is really on what is normal for us and how do we start to work with with ourselves and with our lives in a new way. What are the internal shifts and changes that are relatively subtle and small to start with? What are those that we need to awaken within ourselves? I had an interesting conversation with my eldest daughter. She's turning 21 this year, and she said to me, she was in quite a grumpy mood this morning, and I kind of said, well, what's going on? And she said, I'm having an identity crisis. And it's not an unusual occurrence for her. She's an artist, so she's very creative, and she has these regular identity crises. But she said this one is different, because she said, I'm starting to see my place in the world as being different. I thought I had this path moving forward, and I thought that I was, it was certain. I knew the steps that I had to take to get to where I want to be and to achieve my goals. And she said, now nothing is certain anymore. I don't, and she was speaking for all of us, I think, in a lot of ways of we thought that our life was unfolding in a particular way, and it was a step-by-step process. And these shifts and changes that have been initiated in the world have kind of thrown that picture out of the window. And we're having to look at what is the path that we are on now? Where is this taking us? But before we can even have clarity on that, we've got to work with the darkness or the shadow aspect of ourselves and the world that needs to come up to be purged and to be cleared and to be released. So we really are stuck between this wanting the positive shifts and changes, wanting the new life, and yet having to face all of this uncomfortable stuff within ourselves and in the world. So that's really where we're at right now. And it does mean that a lot of the dreams or the intentions or the goals that we've had for our life are no longer relevant and have to be shifted and changed or adapted to meet the new world that is being born. So it is a case of really looking at that. And I might have said this before, but you know, for me, I always look at life in the kind of four aspects to life. There's our physical life, so that includes our physical reality and our physical form, our physical body. Then there's also our emotional aspect, so that's our emotional self and our emotional life. Then we've got our mental aspect, our thoughts, our beliefs, our consciousness, and then we have our spiritual aspect, which incorporates the soul aspect of ourselves as well. And we almost need to break down our lives into those four aspects and say, what on each aspect do we need to shift and change? What on each aspect do we need to bring in to support us moving forward to developing this new life, or this new world, or this new reality? So that really is the focus that I'm sensing for this coming week. And you know, we're moving towards a really, really key point in this time, which is the solstice on the 21st of June. Not only are we having a solstice, but we're also having a new moon, and we're having a solar eclipse. That is a lot of powerful energy that is happening on one day. And it feels to me like that point is a real turning point. I'm not sure, and I haven't been able to sense or feel beyond what that turning point is taking us into, but it definitely is a pivotal point, as the balance of light and dark energies kind of meet and balance out. So we really need to focus towards that point. So I would use the next few weeks, 2 weeks, to really focus on what is it that I am being faced with in myself? What is the darkness that is arising in me? What are the old patterns, the old programming? What are the limitations that I still carry within me that block me from being able to kind of live my greatest life, or to be the best version of myself? What are the changes that need to be made in me first before I look externally into my life? And often when we make the shifts and changes within ourselves, we don't need to go and actively make changes in our reality or in our life. Those changes naturally just happen because we have shifted. It's a bit like boundaries. You know, people always think that when you set a boundary, you have to draw this line and tell everyone, this is my boundary. But actually, it doesn't really work like that. A boundary is something that you carry as an energy and as a power within you. And when you are clear in yourself of what your boundaries are, you kind of put that energy out, and no one actually wants to cross them because they feel and sense that power and that energy. And it's the same with making those internal shifts and changes. And we need to be aware as well of that a lot of the stuff that is coming up within us comes from our subconscious programming and patterning. So it is rising, this energy is rising through that unconscious self and coming up into our conscious minds and conscious awareness. If we look at where are we being triggered, both personally and as a collective, what are the triggers that are coming up? Where are you feeling uncomfortable about what's happening? Where are you feeling difficulties or challenge? Where are you feeling challenged within yourself, within your relationships, within your life, within your work? Start to really look at those kind of triggers that are making things obvious of where the challenges are, or what it is that you're needing to work through and process. I don't know about any of you guys, but sure, the last 4 days, I could have slept for days. So there really is this feeling as well of like the heaviness of what we're moving through is causing our kind of physical self to really feel stretched. And, you know, so the other aspect of, you know, yes, we need to look at all of these things. Yes, we need to change. Yes, we need to process the unhealed aspects of ourselves. But we also need to be mindful of the intensity of what is happening right now and the impact that has on us on a physical level. it is essential that we start to actually notice that impact. Some of the things that I've been feeling over the weekend, or in fact since, I mean, Thursday was just about a write-off for me. I really felt a lot of pressure as we were moving towards the full moon and the eclipse. So for me, the symptoms of kind of intense energy and having to process that energy is exhaustion, just feeling really, really stiff. Like every time I get up, I feel like I'm 900 years old because everything creaks and aches and hurts. I also get this funny metallic taste in my mouth. I'm needing to rest a lot and to really hydrate. And so, you know, you need to really observe those kind of symptoms that happen over these powerful, powerful energetic times, because our body does take enormous amounts of strain. You know, the more conscious we become, the more the more awareness we have around what is happening, the more we can work with the incoming energies and not have it knock us sideways. So really start to focus on your physical self as well. Really take care of that, and start to look at where do you need to shift and change things on that level to be able to facilitate the process that we're all going through and that you're going through. I mean, I think one of the things that is fascinating for me is that we are, I can see a couple of comments coming through of people having the same kind of symptoms, throbbing third eye. Haven't had that, but yes to everything else. I mean, I think what's fascinating about this time as well is that, you know, as we've been given space away from what our lives have been like in the past, so we are better able to start implementing ways of living and being that really do nurture who we are and nurture ourselves in a different way. You know, we've kind of been forced to get out of the hamster wheel and take a step back from our lives, and it is an opportunity to really start looking at what is the self-care that you have in place. How do you nurture yourself? How do you take care of yourself? What is it that your being, physical as well as soul being, is asking for at this time? Really tapping into that awareness of, and as we do that, we start to allow space for us to process. You know, it's very difficult, and we can send ourselves into crisis if we don't allow space for ourselves to process the energies and what is coming up. Because, you know, we keep going. We don't take the break to sit quietly, to allow ourselves literally to stare out the window, to allow the emotions to flow, to allow the thoughts to flow. We've forgotten how to do that as a culture, and as a society. You know, it's almost, we're being told that we should, to be busy is considered good and positive. If you are busy all the time, then you are achieving something, you are doing something. And actually that is not true. There are times where we need that space to be still, to be quiet, to be doing nothing, because in doing nothing we actually allow our creativity to be stimulated, and in that creativity being stimulated, new thoughts, new ideas, new inspiration comes that we can then focus on and follow through on. And thank you. Yes, I see that. The human doing instead of the human being. That's exactly it. And it can be hard to stop the doing, because it's become a bad habit. But focusing on that is important. And then there's another comment here. Dealing with this energy couldn't be at a better time. A time where taking a nap is possible because we're in lockdown. I agree. Naps are important. If anyone's had a toddler, they'll know. Okay, just having a look here, moving forward. Yeah, this is also really important moving forward, is that don't expect to have an epiphany or major clarity in this time. There's way too much confusion with the energy coming up. When I kind of close my eyes and I look into what is happening energetically on the planet, and it just feels this confusion of energy lines that are shifting and changing and moving continuously. I can't find a steady, stable stream of energy. It's not that it's all over the place and that there's confusion. It's just that if you imagine my fingers are streams of energy, that energy is kind of doing this and it's moving, but it's moving forward, but it's doing this. It's trying to find a stable space to work in. And when it's doing that, it's very difficult to find clarity. Just as we think, okay, that's where I'm going, that's what I need to be doing, it moves and it's gone. So don't try and gain clarity at this time. My suggestion would be is to keep a notebook or if you can on your phone, open up a page for notes and really allow yourself that space to write down any sudden inspirations or ideas that come to you. Just write them down. Don't do anything with them, just write them down. Because as this energy moves around, there is going to be things that come to you that won't necessarily make sense right now, but may make sense later on as everything stabilizes a little bit. And also remembering that in this time where the energy is moving so dramatically, our memory can be, things can be a little bit hard to hold on to as the kind of the thoughts come and they just fly right out. And once it's out, you can't find it again. It's a kind of a symptom of there being really intense energies moving around. So allow yourself a space to be able to write notes and of the ideas and the sudden inspirations that come. It is important to do that. They will make sense later on. And I think that kind of covers it. Has anyone got any questions for this week? Anything anyone wants to share? Or any questions on what I've said? Maybe you needing me to go deeper into it, which I can.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Nancy.
These here in the US are so beyond chaotic. I mean, they're violent. They're the rally I talked about last week got very, very destructive and violent here. They seem to be settling down, but there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. There's just people marching in the streets, which is very frightening. I mean, it's not the rallies, but we've spent 3 months in lockdown, and now there's literally this week, I think it was Wednesday, 55,000 people marched 2 miles from here.
Wow.
And we aren't even the biggest rallies in Boston. And it just, it stirs up fear about the virus, even though they're wearing masks. And, it just, do you see like when things begin to settle down a little bit? And I know it isn't just the US too, because I hear that it's happening other places too, Thanks.
Yeah, it's definitely happening from what I can tell globally. It's happening worldwide. I mean, we've had our own protests here, although they seem to have been quite well behaved and quite civilized. There's been very little violence or the photos were of everyone standing in an appropriate socially distanced space. From what I can tell is, I can't say when this is going to settle. I think that there are, there are themes that sit within the collective, and these themes are filled with pain, grief, trauma, and I think racism is one of those themes. It's a big one, but it is a theme that sits in the collective that needs to be addressed, that needs to be released, and needs to be healed. And the reactionary nature of these themes means that it does trigger within everyone that energy. And if we look at ourselves from a soul perspective, every single one of us has probably been Black in a past life. You know, we've experienced, a lot of us have experienced everything, every possible trauma that has been inflicted on humanity has been experienced by us on a soul level. So somewhere within all of us, we carry this trauma. And when these things are heightened in the collective, and the reactions of the people of like what is happening now with the protests, it triggers within all of us a healing crisis and an opportunity for us all to go into it with a space and to focus on going into it from a place of compassion and love and forgiveness. If we can do that, we can shift the collective consciousness and to bring about the healing that can happen for everyone. Yes, there's a need for bringing this awareness, and that's why these protests are useful in that way. You know, everything that is happening is useful in the sense that it is heightening or bringing a heightened awareness of this trauma. There are other themes. I can't think of all of those themes right now. The one that comes to mind while I'm sitting here is the abuse of women and children. It's another big one. We had that theme come up quite significantly last year here in South Africa, which resulted in a lot of protests and marches. A young woman was raped and murdered, which isn't an uncommon thing in South Africa, unfortunately, but this one seemed to have triggered the collective, and it brought an awareness of that, and brought some healing. And I think that these themes are going to start coming up. I am hoping and praying that as we move closer to the solstice in June, there's a bit more of a balancing effect. And so things become less reactionary and we can move more into a space of healing. But we've got to let this energy out. You know, we as a culture, as a Western culture and society, we have been taught to suppress a lot of these things because they make people uncomfortable. These topics make people uncomfortable. Why? You know, we don't want to talk about poverty. We don't want to talk about racism. We don't want to talk about the abuse of women and children because it makes us uncomfortable. What is that uncomfortable feeling? What sits behind it? Is it guilt? Is it your own trauma and pain? Is it a soul aspect or a karmic aspect that is needing to be released and cleared? You know, everyone is carrying something, and that's what we are needing to work with. So I think if we can start to look at it from that perspective, we don't need to get sucked into the drama of it. And I think that we must also remember everyone has purpose. You know, there are some people whose purpose it is to be an activist. It is some people whose purpose it is to be a healer. There are other people whose purpose it is to be to incite revolutions. You've got to look at what is your purpose in this. I think I like to think I'm pretty clear about what my purpose is, but you know, that is also shifting and changing because the world is shifting and changing. And what I started doing 20 years ago is not necessarily as relevant now as it was then. So we do evolve and we do grow in these processes. So try your best, which it can be difficult, but if you can look at how are you being triggered by what is happening and what is coming up with you. So there's fear. If we look at the fear that is coming up, what is that fear around? Where does it stem from? Is it relevant to now? And how can you step out of the fear so that you can actually start to work with it, to process it, and to heal it, rather than allowing it to overwhelm you. I mean, one of the questions here is, what's the best way to protect ourselves from all the fear energy surrounding this? From someone else who is also in the US. Lorraine, I think that, thank you for that question and for bringing that up, because I think it is important that we do focus on that. And protection is, on an energetic level, is essential, especially now with everything being so with all of this negative energy being heightened and everything that is happening. I think that there are a number of ways to do that. The first key in that is actually to make sure that your energy is clear. So in order to do that, there are many ways of doing that. I mean, if you're able to do it for yourself, there are many meditations that you can do, self-guided meditations, which will enable you to clear and cleanse your energy system, your chakras. Chakra clearing is one simple way of being able to do it. And then to be able to focus on how do you build that energetic protection, which will filter out the negative energies of the collective and enable you to just work with your own fears and anxieties or worries or concerns or anything that is coming up at the moment. There are many ways to do that as well. Just thinking, you know, that the simplest one is imagining yourself standing in light. I like to use the one where I imagine myself standing in a flame. Sometimes that flame is orange, sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's blue, sometimes it's white. It just depends on what I'm feeling I need in that moment. The intention of stepping into that flame is to enable anything that is coming at me to be transformed and transmuted before it even touches my energy field. Yeah, I think that's, and you know, as you work through your own issues, as you work through your own concerns, your worries, your fears, your anxieties, you start to naturally clear your energy field. But it is an important thing to focus on at the moment. And then there's another question. Since the full moon, I've been feeling like something is in forward motion and making future plans. Any advice? Remaking future plans, removing, and jobs, etc. Yeah, as I said, the energy is quite chaotic at the moment. So you're kind of going to get a taste of any movement forward or any changes that you need to make or any new things that you need to embark on. So I really would wait for clarity. In the next couple of weeks, I'm not sure we're going to get a huge amount of clarity. So rather just hold your horses with regards to embarking on anything. There are also, can't remember, 6 planets in retrograde. Mercury's going retrograde. There's a lot of retrograde energy happening. So it's not really the time to make any real commitments. I certainly wouldn't advise that at the moment. But as I said earlier, you know, make a note of any sudden inspirations and ideas that come, because they may be relevant for later on, not necessarily right now. Okay, someone's mentioned Jim Self, who offers the Rose technique for energetic protection. Yeah, Jim's work is great. There are a couple of exercises of his that really do help. So I'd go and have a look at those. Lorraine, how old is your son? you could just mention, you've mentioned here that he is having a lot of fear. He's 23. Okay, yeah, it is. I'm seeing that in my children as well. The fear and uncertainty of the world and whether there's a future for them. It's a very real fear. I think that as parents, it's essential that we are practical, grounded, and real in this time, because it's actually, they will take from us how are they going to respond to the situation. If we are in fear, if we are carrying anxiety and fear around this time, they will feel it, and it will feel that the world will feel unstable for them. The more stable you are, the more grounded you are, the more real you are, the less he will wobble. So really focus on yourself as well. And I think that you know, I've had conversations with my children around, and we've been doing it for a long time, around, you know, the issues we see in the world and the challenges that we see in the world. And I've always asked their opinion on, you know, how would you change it? What would be your solutions? And I've encouraged them to see things in that way, rather than waiting for someone else to make things right in the world. I kind of have done my best to empower them to feel that they have a say in how their world is. So even when all of this, you know, this lockdown happened and the riots that are happening, I have noticed my kids really, they're not being thrown by it. They're actually quite excited that these things are being raised. And I think we need to focus on that. We need to focus on the positive aspect of what is coming up, rather than always focusing on the negative. And the positive is that actually the world has to change. Our cultures and our societies have to change. We can no longer continue to do the things that we have done. We just have to look at the environmentally what the state of the planet is in. We have to change, and unfortunately change can be really, really uncomfortable, because there are things that we didn't quite think of that need to shift and change, that maybe make our lives a little bit more challenging. You know, one of the things that I've been trying to do for a while now is growing a veggie garden. Who knew growing veggies was so hard? I'm not very successful at it. I'm clearly not a farmer. You know, but it's and I mean, I'm making light of something, but you know, I think we need to focus on the fact, and maybe Lorraine, this is a conversation that you need to open up with your son, is that having these conversations with our children of like really seeing what is wrong in the world, but recognizing that there are solutions. You know, I have spoken with people who are quite influential in the I don't know how to word it. I suppose in the political sphere, certainly in this country, and some of these people have influence in other countries. And you know, one of the questions that I've been asked is you know, how do we fix this? How do we change this? How do we make the world a better place? How you know, what are we going to do about the poisoning of the planet? What are we going to do to heal the oceans, to stop the decimating of the forests? And you know, these questions have been asked of me, and I'm like, I have no idea. I don't have the solutions, but all I can do is bring the questions as like they have to me. And one of the things that I eventually said to them was, actually, it is the children who have the solutions. It is the young people. You know, they are more evolved than us. They have a fresh way of looking at the world that is exactly what we need. And if we start to ask them for the solutions, we're going to be given them. I mean, I always celebrate these incredible achievements that you see sometimes with these kids coming up with these amazing inventions. I mean, there's that one, there was a boy that invented something to collect the plastic out of the oceans, and he was young. And I thought, well, you know, the solutions are right there. They sit within these kids. And one of the most beautiful things that a teacher once at my children's school once told me, my kids went to a Waldorf school, a Rudolf Steiner school, for those who don't know what Waldorf is. And I was debating whether they should go into the high school there, or whether they should just stay in the primary school and then go off into a mainstream high school. And I said to one of the teachers, explain to me simply, what is the difference between a Rudolf Steiner education and a mainstream education? And he turned around and he said to me, in a mainstream education, your children are taught how to live in current society. In a Waldorf educational system or a Rudolf Steiner educational system, we recognize that a child brings something for a future society, and our aim is to develop that in the child. And that was it. I was like, these kids are never leaving the school. But it's, you know, that is it. These kids carry something for the future. And we've got to try and help them as adults and unlock that. Okay, so Lorraine, I'm glad that's resonating with you. And maybe also just saying to him, you know, what are the solutions that he sees? And from Nancy, the world has to come into balance if we are to ascend. Let's create heaven on earth together. Learning to work in unity and harmony is what we are seeing happening now. Everything is being disrupted to be reconstructed or created with integrity, trust, and love. Exactly. Yeah, and the breakdown can be pretty uncomfortable. And I think that the most uncomfortable part of it is because we're not seeing the solutions coming to meet it. You know, as the world disintegrates, we're not really seeing anything rising to replace that. But it's sitting in us. It's sitting in our consciousness. It's sitting in our energy. So that's why we always need to bring the focus back to ourselves. What do I need to do in my life? How do I bring, if we look at ourselves and we recognize that we are pillars of the foundation. What is my pillar? What do I carry? What do I bring in? So if we can access that, if we can start to work with that, then we are bringing the new foundation for a new reality in a new world. So Shelley says, I've always felt that we are the guardians to create a safe space, and to hold the energy for the youth, for the young. I agree. Yeah, imagine how amazing the world would be if we had some really young people in governments and politics. I remember giving it, I went off to Scotland a couple of years ago to give a talk, and there were a number of people giving talks, and there were these two young guys that came in and gave a talk on their business, which was recycling coffee beans. And they were fascinating. I mean, they were absolutely inspiring, because they had both worked in coffee shops and had been wondering what happened to the coffee grinds that were just getting emptied out into a bin. You know, couldn't something be done with them, because they obviously recognized at the end of the day these mounds of coffee grinds, and they did a whole lot of investigating into it, and they realized that actually there's a technique to separate the grinds, and you get a liquid and then you get some dry powder when you separate the two, and they are it's incredible fertilizer. And so what they did is they started a business and opened up a plant to separate the coffee grinds and to get these two fertilizers, and then they started selling them to the farms in and around Scotland. And they've started this incredible business. And I mean, you know, these guys were 23 and 24. So all it did was, you know, it was just a question they asked: what happens to the coffee grinds? So if you have children in your life, ask them for the solutions, ask them what we're supposed to be doing. I ask my children on a regular basis, and sometimes I get an answer, but a lot of the time I get a lot of rolling eyes and saying, don't ask us. Okay, any other questions anyone else has? Okay, so maybe we can focus on getting into our meditative state. Yeah, and let's see what today's meditation holds. It's such an interesting time energetically. I'm sure it'll be very relevant. So just find yourself moving into a comfortable space. All right. Closing your eyes when you're ready. And let's just start with focusing on our breath and our breathing, using our breath to bring us into a deeper awareness of the space that we're in, a deeper awareness of our bodies. And just allow your body to settle into a comfortable space. Allow yourself to let go of any tension, any stress, any pressure that you're feeling in your body. Allow yourself to feel into that tension and pressure. Breathe into it. And using the breath to let it go. Draw your awareness to your jaw and become aware of any tension that is being held in your jaw. Consciously relax your jaw. Relax your tongue. Relax your cheekbones. And allow a feeling of relaxation now to move into your neck and into your throat. Really allowing that neck to let go of any tension. Consciously drawing your breath into that space in your neck to create space in your neck. Feel the muscles of your throat relaxing. And allow that sense of relaxation now to move into your shoulders. Using your breath to just drop the weight that you carry on your shoulders. The worries and the concerns, the fears and the anxieties. Just feeling them dropping away. And feeling that sense of relaxation moving down your body now. Your upper back and your chest. There's a feeling of being constricted in those areas. Just allow the breath to open and to expand your chest, your lungs. Now moving down into your stomach. Just allow your stomach muscles to relax. We often hold a lot of tension and a lot of emotion in our stomach area. Just consciously relax that area. And as you relax that area, allow your lower back to relax. And feeling that sense of relaxation moving into your pelvis and into your hips. Feel that area opening, relaxing. And moving into your legs now, just allowing your legs to relax. And with this relaxation, moving your awareness into your feet. And becoming aware of the connection that you have to the earth through your feet. And now move your awareness to the top of your head, to your crown chakra. As you become aware of this space, sense, feel, or imagine a beam of light energy that is moving from the divine down into your crown. And feel this light energy creating a pool of energy at the top of your head. And slowly begin to feel and sense or imagine this energy overflowing now. And it begins to flood your body, your being, and your energy field with light. You feel this energy streaming down in and around your entire body and being. And as it does so, the light dissolves any negative energies, any negative emotions, feelings, thoughts, fears, anxieties, and worries. Allow them all to be dissolved in this energy as it floods through your body and being. Allow it to dissolve anything that does not belong to you. Any thoughts, any feelings, any emotions that are not yours. Feel those all being dissolved. And feel or sense yourself standing in a column of light energy. And as this light energy continues to dissolve the feelings, thoughts, and emotions that are not yours or that are negative in energy, you feel yourself becoming stronger. You can feel and sense the core of your being being activated, and the energy of your core beginning to flow throughout your entire body. You can feel it moving up your spine, strengthening and straightening your spine. You can feel it moving into your shoulders, into your neck. You can feel this core of energy connecting you to the divine. And moving down your body and connecting you to the energy of the earth. And just feel this core of energy, this power, begin to radiate from the center of your body outwards and into your energy field. Feel it strengthening your energy field. Feel your energy field begin to expand. And with this expansion, it becomes a protective force. That dissolves and blocks any negativity. But is able to radiate light, peace, and balance. And allow yourself to relax into the space of light, of balance, of peace. And in this space, feel your heart center opening. And feel the energy of love and compassion flow through you and into the world. Remember that you can dissolve all negativity with compassion. That you can dissolve all fear with compassion. And in this moment, allow yourself to remember what compassion feels like. And maintaining this space. Just gently draw your awareness back into this time, into the space, into your body. Take a couple of deep breaths. Move your fingers and your toes. You can open your eyes when you're ready. Hope you all enjoyed that. Yeah, some good techniques there to clear our energy field and bring us back into a state of balance and protection. I think if we can remember that when we hold a space of peace and compassion, we can hold a space of understanding and empathy. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for all your beautiful messages. And it's always lovely to see you all. And yeah, we'll meet same place, same time next week. Thanks, Megan. It's always wonderful to have everyone on here, and I think it's building up a nice energy with all of us meeting regularly. So I'm really appreciative for all making the time. Thank you. Okay. Again, if you've got any questions in the week that you'd like me to address next week, please just send me an email or drop me a message. Yeah, let me know. I can see we've got lots of new people from different places in the world. That's great. Thank you for making the time. Good. Yeah, and just remember to hold that space of compassion for yourself and for the world right now. More than anything, that's what we need. Rather than fear and judgment. I think that's kind of what's got us into the place that we're in right now. So I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a lovely week. Cheers.